Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. Soon to be afternoon. And I'm coming to you live from what was New York City, what is now, I guess, known as Communist Headquarters East. So if you haven't been watching, Zoran Mamdani has become the new mayor-elect of New York. In a race where only 2 million people turned out. Not even 2.2 million people voted in a city of 8 million plus people, which means that while they're telling you that there was record turnout, right? They're saying, oh, that's been the best turnout since 1969. What? Only 2 million people voted. What are you talking about? That's 25% turnout. They said it was best since 1969. What are you talking about? It's 25%. Bloomberg, New York City's mayor race, sees most votes cast since 1969. But wait a minute, what are you talking about? Only 25% of the people even showed up. Sorry, this is behind a paywall. I just wanted to show you that the article existed. And then Mamdani comes up and he starts to get all fiery and he's challenging Trump already. He says, turn up the volume. What does that mean? It's almost like they're working together, right? And Trump says, oh, so it begins. So Trump wanted this. You could see that, right? Why else would Trump, a couple of days before the election and then on election day, why would he support Cuomo? His political enemy. Why would he support Cuomo, his political enemy? And you could see that they were right? Because if Cuomo hadn't run, I bet you Sliwa could have beat Mamdani, but they didn't want to talk about that. They just said, well, if Sliwa got out, you might not have even beaten him then. He got 50% of the vote. But only 2 million people voted, and there was all kinds of rumors that there were illegal aliens voting and people voting 7 times. One guy said he was going to vote 7 times if he could. Where was that? Mamdani voter vowed to vote 6 times and 75,000 Pennsylvania voters disenfranchised PJ Media. What do you mean you're going to vote 6 times? Well, what about if there was a bunch of illegal aliens and they all vote 6 times for Mamdani? Yeah, he could win. With only 2 million turnout, 25%. But here's the bigger question. Why is 6 million people plus not voting in one of the biggest mayoral elections in a generation? And you're telling me that only 25% of the people got off their fucking ass and voted? How is that possible? Somebody needs to look into how many votes really were cast in this thing. Because they're saying it was only 2.2 million or 2 million plus, which means where's the other 6 million people? Are you telling me 6 million people are not eligible to vote who live in New York? What does that mean? That could mean that there's a lot of people in New York illegally, no? Or there's 6 million people just didn't give a fuck. That's for someone else to figure out. I don't know the answer to that question. But everybody I've asked that question to has no answer. Because they can't even understand how Mamdani even won. And then the rumor was going around that 30% of the Jewish vote went to Mamdani, which I find hard to believe. My older Jewish friends who I talked to, they said, yeah, there's a lot of younger people that just are stupid and they weren't even around when 9/11 happened. They don't remember any of that shit. They didn't breathe in the smoke. They didn't see 9/11 happen like I did right there, 5, 7 blocks away, 10 blocks away. They didn't breathe the smoke in for 3 months or 6 months. They didn't have to go to hospitals. That's who elected Mamdani. We tracked every visitor to Epstein Island. This is a Wired article from a long time ago. It never came out, the people that went there, but they could track whose phones were where and when. Just like now they know, they're saying Gates was down there, other people. What else happened besides the election, which I don't think Mamdani won because something doesn't smell right about it. There was bomb threats. There was the way that Cuomo was positioned on the ballot was weird, people said, and that was true. There was a lot of things about it that didn't make sense. It's like very quiet here in New York. It's like a morgue. People are in shock here. Was it that the young vote had enough impetus to put Mamdani towards victory, or was it that they ran 3 candidates and they split it up? They did that on purpose. That's why Cuomo really ran as an independent when he should never have run, right? He was a beaten person. He had already lost once against Mamdani. Why would anyone think he could beat him again? Was it that they thought Sliwa dropped out? Sliwa said something interesting last night in his concession speech. He said they tried to bribe me. They tried to pay me they offered me $10 million. That's what I heard him say. That's on the record. He said that on the record. That's not me saying it. He said they tried to bribe me. I didn't, back down. I stayed in the race. They tried to bribe me and pay me $10 million. So somebody needs to look into that, one. And two, there needs to be looking to the votes and how they were cast, especially all those early votes that flooded in early for Mamdani. I think there's something very suspicious about those. Even though it was only 151,000 votes, that's still enough that they weren't that far apart, right? They were only less than 180,000 votes apart altogether, I think. You're only talking about 2.2 million votes to split up between three people. 8 million people are not voting. The question is, why not? Is there 6 million dead people on the rolls? Is there 6 million people in New York that can't vote? How is that possible? We don't know who's really in New York, do we? What if only 2 million people in New York are actual citizens? Is that possible? And 6 million people have been, over time, accumulated here? I don't know the answer to that. That would be a shocking revelation if it's true. Why did 6 million people not vote in the mayoral election in New York City? In the last two elections? Because this is the same amount and the same turnout that got Adams elected was also 25, 27, 20. It wasn't even 35%. Why is nobody voting for mayor in New York's mayoral elections? Are they all stuck at work and they can't vote? That's not true. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in New York City. It's very liberal. That's 15 hours you got to vote, man. Right? From 6 in the fucking a.m. If you really want to vote in New York, you can. And there's all kinds of early voting for like a week before. The question is, who are the early votes that came in? Because in New York, you don't have to, right? You can just say your name. They say, give me the last three letters of your last name. That's what they ask you. They don't ask for any ID, and then they show you your name and your date of birth, and they say, is that you? And you say, yeah. But if it's not you, and it's a dead person, and you have a fake ID that says you're that, then you could vote in New York. You don't even have to show a driver's license or anything. So our YouTube channel is back up. It's at NPNP News on YouTube. I shared the link, so you can go check us out. We're going to go back up on YouTube now, and if they kick us back off, I'll let you know that they kicked us back off. They kicked us off 4 months into the... I had actually done about almost 150 videos on YouTube before they kicked us off permanently for violation of their so-called rules. And I reposted my Dominion voting gave 18 patents as collateral to HSBC Bank of Canada on September 25th, 2019. Just in time to do what? Rig the 2020 election, right? You didn't remember that? That Dominion voting gave some of their collaterals to HSBC. Who owns HSBC? China. They have a stake in it, which means that China owns some of the patents to Dominion voting systems, which is what we use in our elections. Is that a good idea? That your political nemesis is access to your voting system now? That could actually probably change it, because we know the decital source code is hackable, right? There's a backdoor in it that allows somebody to go in and change the votes. That's why Swiss Post wouldn't buy Seidel back in the day to use it for the Swiss elections, because they had their own hacker do their due diligence, and the hacker came back and said, no, we can't use this. You can't use it. Why not? Well, because I hacked in and there's a back door. I got in and I could change the votes. And nobody will know I did it. There's no trace. So they realized, oh, this is a perfect way to rig the elections. Now China's got access to your elections through Dominion because you gave 18 patents away when Dominion sold them to China for money, because they wanted to get some kind of a loan, right? They got loans. And to get those loans, they had to give up some of their patent rights. That's a 4-year-old article Oh, that dig, I mean, was 4 years old that I did. Right? That was right after the election where people were going, how the heck did Joe win? Well, Joe won because they wanted Joe to win. They hooked the whole thing up and Trump was in on it with them, right? That's what you know now. That's what I think anyway. It's the whole chaos thing, right? Yeah, we're going to make the chaos thing and Trump will come in as the savior. And I remember a couple of years back I started saying, man, Trump could be a Trojan horse, right? Remember that dig I did? Is Trump deep state? And we were starting to talk about, I don't trust whatever this plan is that they're saying. I could start to see that this is a propaganda operation. The Q thing, the whole thing with that, the sharing of information that was already out and trying to regurgitate it in a form that there was some smoky figure in some room somewhere telling you stuff that you never heard before, which was bullshit, really, because most of that information was commonly known. Right? All these pundits that came out and said, oh, there's all these kids in cages, and that never materialized. And it still hasn't. And the people that were saying that Gitmo's full and they had to evacuate Gitmo. So if they had to evacuate Gitmo, where's all the prisoners on boats? Where'd they all go? The article I failed to cover was the TikTok-loving Sudanese warlord. This is the butcher that butchered 2,000 people in Sudan already, and they're butchering Christians all over Africa. Who's doing that and why? Well, they want people to start fighting. They want Christians to start fighting the Muslims. They want the Jews to start fighting the Muslims. They want strife. They want chaos. It's chaos loop. It's Captain America, the Winter Soldier, like I showed you with Arnim Zola, right? It's just that we can't take your freedom from you. You'll fight us to the last. We already figured that out in World War I and II. How can we take your freedom away from you non-violently? Well, I have to get you to give it to us, right? Willingly. So we'll make it so uncomfortable with all the shootings and the killings and the stabbings and the right. We'll activate every asset that we have to make people go crazy. We'll make clones and half-human hybrids that'll start to freak out, so that the world will become so unstable appearing that people will just beg for order, right? Order out of chaos. That's the same thing that went on in the movie V. Remember, was that the movie V? No, not V. What was it called? With the guy with the mask on. Right? It says some people think that they know how to keep order and they know how to do it, right? Kamala tells Jon Stewart that Biden was fully competent for a second term. Are you kidding? Even Jon Stewart couldn't keep a straight face. Even Jon Stewart was like, huh? What'd you just say? Are you sure? Really? Federal grand jury indicts 26 people and companies for defrauding Puerto Rico Treasury Department over $3.5 million to public of $3.5 million. Sorry, that was the lead in last week's story because I didn't cover it, but I wanted to make it the lead because that could be part of the IRS scam where it's like the scam, right? Where's all this IRS money going? It's not going into the taxpayers' coffers and to fix the country. No, it's being skimmed, and some of it's going to Puerto Rico. That's what my research had led me. I was telling you to check out the poet, the English poet Lord Byron. He's a heavyweight. If you want to get into some heavy old school poetry. I like Wordsworth too. I like Byron. I like all kinds of stuff, newer stuff. The USA Patriot Act I was looking into. You can check that out where they and put that into place right after 9/11, not far after, right? Hey, we got attacked. We have to, right? It's the same thing. Order out of chaos, same thing, right? Hey, we got attacked by this country. This group wants to kill us. We got to fight back for our ideals. It's the same bullshit over and over. It was Vietnam, Korea, the first Iraq, the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, Afghanistan. Protecting the poppy, making sure that 95% of the world's opium supply was secure in Afghanistan, making sure the poppy cultivation increased instead of decreased over those 20 years. Who was making money off all that opium being sold? The blue blood families that made fortunes in the opium trade. Long before the Sacklers appeared on the scene, families like the Astors, the Peabodys, and the Delanos, right? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right? cemented their upper crust status through the global trade in opium. So your president's grandfather, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's grandfather, was an opium pusher, an opium dealer. So were the Astors, some of the richest families in New York. That's how they got rich. They got rich as drug dealers. Period. End of story. End of sentence. That's fact. So, when people go, oh, like I hear these people, oh, FDR was so great. He was the only president for 4 terms. He got us through World War II. No. Not when you look back and you know the real history. He was part of creating what World War II was. It was all a fake bunch of incidents that got us into a war. On purpose. Why? Because then Hydra could get its claws inside the United States, right? When the United States created the OSS, which became the CIA, some of the people within that were some of those paperclip Nazis. And what did they go on to create? A device called, that you could look back in time with, called the, I'll think of it in a second. Enrico Fermi created it along with the German scientist who was known for their jet propulsion technology, right? Werner von Braun. It was called the something-atron. Sorry, my memory's not as crisp as it used to be, but I will remember. I did do some digs on it. My earliest digs were on those devices, which they then created a device you can look forward in time and back in time. But first, they could look back in time. Delano's dealings, the opium trade, and the making of a presidential legacy. You can look into that. These are facts that most people don't want to talk about. They just want to glorify FDR. But he was also the person that oversaw the removal of all the gold from the American citizens' pockets and depositing that gold into the coffers of the United States. And then all of a sudden they said, hey, guess what? Gold's worth $10 more an ounce than it was before. Sorry about that. You don't have it anymore. We just took all yours and we made it worth $10 more. And we told you can't keep it. How messed up is that? Dems cynically keep government shut down past Election Day as SNAP benefits could lapse. They did lapse, and they're apparently not being paid out. Although apparently a judge is saying they have to be. Diddy allegedly assaulted a producer who saw disgraced mogul masturbate on Biggie Smalls' shirt. If you go back, right, I know Biggie Smalls, if you think about and you know who Biggie Smalls was, he was a scary dude. But also, if you look at some of the video of Biggie Smalls and Biggie Smalls and Puffy, or Diddy, you could see that they were, I think, intimate. I know that's kind of a crazy statement, but if you go watch some of the interviews that Diddy did early on with Biggie, you could see it. I'll just leave that there. UBS inches toward historic move to leave Switzerland as it's wooed by Trump administration. I looked into Catholic-only tours and Jewish-only tours. They do exist. I was wrong, so I'll take that one. I forgot that they do have these kinds of cruises where you can go on singles cruises or, yeah, right. They have gay cruises. They have straight cruises now. They have all kinds of stuff. They probably have an S&M cruise. They probably have who knows what, right? I don't even want to know. Federal judges blocked Trump from requiring Americans to provide proof of citizenship to vote. Yeah, like I said, I just had to say the last 3 letters of my last name. Multiple lawsuits have been filed to block different aspects of the March executive order, including a part that bars states from counting mail-in ballots received after Election Day. Is it possible that New York has 6 million or millions of dead voters that they can use on the rolls to give those names to some illegal alien? And then, yeah, it's Mr. Rodriguez died, 1980, and we're keeping him alive, and now we have an illegal alien who can pretend that he's Mr. Rodriguez. That's possible, right? It's possible that New York has 2 million or 3 million dead people's names on the rolls because it's one of the oldest states and it's got a large populace. Although somebody told me, one of my friends shared with me that I think the population of New York went from 23 million to down to 19 million in the past 5 years, which from 2020 to 2025, I think. I'm going to double check it, but if that's true, and then another million now want to leave over Mamdani, that's a huge loss of population, which loses you power, right? Because the more populous states are the ones that have the most power. That's the way our country's set up. So if you didn't check out Ari at Home's Halloween, that was probably the craziest stream I've ever seen. Ari at one point got completely surrounded. Of course, Mamdani's managed to wiggle his way into Ari's stream because he realizes how big of a phenomenon Ari is. I got some Pepsi here with me now. Coffee's already drunk. I had to get my bathroom painted. I've been fighting with the building. They don't even want to paint my bathroom. There was mold on my ceiling that they said. I said, okay, great. Get somebody in here and paint my bathroom and scrape my ceiling and fix it. They said, well, we'll come scrape the ceiling and plaster and stuff, but we're not going to paint the bathroom. I'm like, why not? I haven't got my bathroom painted in 15 years or so. You can't paint the fucking thing? Why not? NYPD floods Washington Square Park with dozens of cops. They totally cleaned the park up in one day. They fixed it. One day. Now people are in there with strollers and they're enjoying the park. I don't know. I guess you could smoke weed in there. I don't know if they're going to even... They might be even ejecting people because, New York is weird, right? You can smoke pretty much anywhere. But if they don't really, want you in the park smoking, they could tell you to leave. Hey, there's kids here. They're playing. We don't want a lot of marijuana smoke. But what happened was you could see, like when I would go in before, a lot of these guys are on heavy drugs. They're drinking lean. They're on who knows what. And they're all over the place. And what happened was people were selling drugs out of the park. They're selling, and there was something going on online where they were selling drugs, and then pickups were going on in the park. And some kid from NYU OD'd on something. I said, get all the freaks out of there. Let the park be. The park used to be heavily surveilled before, and like it is now. They just told the cops, see, that's what happens. When the cops don't patrol, now you see what happens. When they do, it's obvious that everything's different, right? If I'm a junkie, I'm not going to be fixing up in the park anymore. Why? Because there's cops patrolling all over it. They're going to see me fix up or see me on the nod on the bench, and they're going to take me out. It's different if you're just smoking a joint, but these guys who do the fentanyl and the heroin, they nod out and they look like a bunch of junkies, and that's horrible. I don't want kids walking by that. Judge hands DOJ win in Letitia James mortgage fraud case after NYAG motion denied. The other thing is here's Adams, who's on his way out. And they put him still on the ballot, and 0.3% of the people voted for him. Why would you leave him on the ballot? I guess he printed the ballots already ahead. And the ballot is so small that you need to have a magnifying glass to read the stuff on the back. Horrible. Horrible ballot here in New York. And people are in shock, and I don't understand how only 25% of somebody has to try to explain that to me in a way that makes any kind of logical sense, where they're saying it's record turnout and only 25% of the populace voted. That's not record. That's a record turnout for a city that has a horrible voting record in voting history then. Mysterious Area 51 unmanned craft crash probed by Air Force and the FBI. So there was some kind of crash there. That's where they test, certain aircraft and new unmanned aircraft and new stuff. Why hasn't Trump given you anything about UFOs at all? Why hasn't he gone into Area 51? Why hasn't he told these people to vacate telling them that this is above his pay grade? Anybody that I ran into who told me that this is above my pay grade, I would have arrested immediately. Until I get to the top of those people and have that guy arrested too. And then I want access to all your files, all your passwords. If not, I'm going to hang you from that freaking thing over there. No trial. I'm going to put you straight to death as a traitor against the nation, as an enemy of the state. The president can do that. The question is, why isn't this Trump doing it? Well, because there's two different, I don't know how many versions of this Trump we've seen walking around. How ridiculous this thing has become. And these pundits are still going, oh yeah, 10 days of darkness, 10 EBS any day, 10 days of darkness, solar flares. Now it's AI Atlas, right? Now it's the Atlas is coming in as a craft. It's acting like it's not a comet, right? It's changing course. It's tails. It's changing colors. It's blue. It's green. That's not a comet. It doesn't do that as far as I've ever seen. It definitely doesn't like start changing its course. This thing is like the size of Manhattan. So if it's a craft and it's good aliens, I'm assuming it couldn't be bad because there's too many good different people watching us now, I'm assuming. So maybe that's the grand finale of this thing. The good aliens come in, they land, they show us that, hey, look, we have all this tech, we're going to help you, these people have been screwing you, and Trump and whoever's running him has to, whatever, either be arrested or just get out of the way, and we have some new government comes in, right, of the people. Some group, however you want to do it, I don't know. And start healing people with the med beds. That's the key. We can't lose any more people. We lost too much already. We got to start healing people and now before we lose any more. That's just my opinion. So if AI Atlas is something great, they're saying, oh, now it's going to be here Christmas Day, it's going to pass near. All right, great. Do it already. Speed up. Do it now. Why are we waiting another month? If you have advanced propulsion tech, you could have been here already. Just show up. Do a V entrance like in the movie V. And just do some kind of recorded message. Hey, we're here at peace. Like, hey, chill. We're going to come down and talk with you guys. No one's going to get hurt. We got healing tech. We got the med beds here. We're going to leave them here and some centers for you. You do what you want. And we're going to have some people. We're going to start talking about a new way forward. And we don't want to run you or whatever, man. Just do it already. It's like these people, all they keep doing is trying to pump fear, pump fear, pump fear. Karen Jean-Pierre Wildly says she couldn't recall a single video of Biden freezing or appearing confused. Are you kidding? There was a whole hodgepodge of shit. And he never did a proper news conference like a international news conference. They hid him away as best they could. BLM co-founder Patrice Cullors and wife dissolved their joint business and sell home. Yeah, because they were doing a scam. They were buying real estate for inflated prices from people. Right? If I'm selling a house for $5 million and you come across and say, hey, I'll give you $6 million, okay? There's nothing against the law for me doing that. Why would I do it? Well, it could be for a different, it usually doesn't happen that I'm $1 million over ask, but let's say the house is, I don't know, $5 million, and you really like the house, and you're mad rich, so you could offer more. Well, sometimes people offer a little over ask, but not usually $1 million over, but they might offer $5,100,000 because they really like the property and they're willing to throw the extra 100 in just to make sure that it's a sweeten the pot a little, so they make sure they get it right. I've seen stuff like that happen. Or less. Maybe they'll do, hey, how about $5,050,000, right? Just for your closing costs and any incidentals you may have, right? A little sweeten it up for you. Sure. But not $6 million for a $5 million. I mean, unless you just got all kinds of money, like some billionaires will do that. Yeah, they just want to lock it down. Okay. You don't want anyone showing it. You want it locked up now. Give me $6 million. Well, it will close it right quick. I'll stop showing it as of today, right? Once your deposit clears for whatever, half, 25%, whatever you want to put down, once that clears and you show me your commitment letter, we sign something, right? Sure. I'll stop showing it. UPenn computer system was hacked. Isn't UPenn the same place where Biden used to work, right? With the other dude. That's where there was something was going on there where there was maybe passing of information, right? The email calls college dogshit elitist institution full of woke retards. Somebody, so we hire and admit morons because we love legacies, donors, and unqualified affirmative action admits. Well, somebody hacked into their system and sent a joint email, of course, berating them, which is funny. Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa closing gap on socialist Zoran Mamdani. It wasn't enough. It turned out Sliwa got about 7% of the vote, which was not much. I think it turned out that Cuomo had about 41%. So even with the extra 7%, that if Sliwa had in fact dropped out, I don't think it would have been enough. He would have still lost. He would have lost 50 point something to 48. With only 2% on, 0.3% voted for for Adams somehow. Who wasn't even running. Either New York City has the biggest voter apathy in the history of any known civilization, where 75% of the populace doesn't vote 2 straight mayoral elections, or something else is going on here that we're not being made aware of. Only certain votes are being cast, and maybe others are being thrown away. I'm not sure, but something doesn't add up with the vote totals, with the amount of people that are here in New York. How come only this small amount of people are voting? And is it true that certain people who are illegal aliens are voting in this race? I think so. Here's an opinion piece. Top Democrats' hateful rhetoric keeps stoking anti-ICE violence. Yeah, they're sparking it. And then what they do is they have some Soros paid group or whatever that they pay the kids to do it. They have a whole thing set up. They got food for them, right? They have all kinds of stuff for them. And remember, throughout Trump's first term, he allowed this to happen the whole time. And let's let it metastasize and let these people create more and bigger networks. And he never did anything to stop it. I never understood that. Why didn't you go after Soros? You could have labeled him an enemy of the state and showed how he was financing it with his son. That would have given you all kinds of other powers to interdict and seize his funds, to arrest him and his son, to arrest the people working with them. You never touched them. Explosive report claims a network of charities connected to George Soros funneled $40 million to support Zoran Mamdani's political rise. Yeah, he was fully funded right away, and he got matching funds. He was overfunded. And then what happened? He took illegal monies, right? And they allowed him to take illegal money, break the law, and he still became mayor, right? They didn't care. They let him do it. Harvard Medical School rocked by intentional explosion. Yeah, they just caught the 2 kids who did it, apparently. They had masks on, but they caught them anyway. I think they have tech that can see through your mask now, is my guess. Or there's so many cameras that, like I said, they can follow you from point A to point B. Okay, you get in your car. Okay, they follow you in your car. Where does he end up? They follow you through the traffic cams. They follow you through anything. They could follow you through people's phones, right? They could follow you through phone cams. They can take over. Remember in one of those movies, with the car movies, what was those called? With Vin Diesel. In one of those movies, there's a device that they're looking after, and it's like this high-tech device that it takes over all the other devices, and it's like an eye in the sky. You could look through people's phones or traffic cams. It searches for whatever you want to search for through all those things until it finds it. IDF Mossad prepping for attacks from Iranian-backed militias. We got chemtrailed a few days ago. We got heavily chemtrailed. Big lines in the sky, crisscrossing the whole sky with those massive lines, too. They were doing it big. Because they want to make sure you vote Mamdani. They want to make sure that people are stupid and dumbed down and they're not thinking independently. Yeah, I want free buses. All this guy said was they're going to do a rent freeze and give you free buses, and he got elected. It's the lamest, and 25% voter turnout, they say, is the best voter turnout since in 2 generations, or a generation. Are you kidding me? That's 25% voter turnout. What are you talking about? Harrisburg Church apologizes for grade school Halloween float displaying Auschwitz Gates phrase. Why would you put that up there? What is wrong with these people? It's agitation propaganda. Right? 101. We've learned about it a long time if you follow this channel. Let's get any two groups of people upset at each other so they don't like each other. How about regular white people who aren't Jewish and Jews not getting along somewhere, right? People might not like Jewish people. Right? A lot of people don't like Jewish people. I have a lot of Jewish friends, I know that. They tell me stories about shit that they hear, and I've had people think I was Jewish, not Jewish. So if you have a certain look, people can say, hey, you're this. You don't know who I am. Right? You have no idea. They want to put you in a box. You're this religion. You're that color. You're that thing. No, I'm a human being. Right? First of all. Right? What was that movie where he says, what are you? He says, I'm worse. Human. Right? I got to find that movie clip. FBI raid at Idaho horse track shows how immigration is a top focus across law enforcement. Yeah, there was a bunch of illegal aliens working at the horse track. Remember when Trump says, hey, I'm sorry I raided that South Korean auto plant that you had all those illegal aliens working at, your own people? Sorry about that. I didn't mean to expose it. Why were you apologizing to these people? You should have been reprimanding them, saying, what the fuck are you doing? We didn't allow you to bring all these people over illegally and then not hire the people of that area where you're putting in the plant. That's the opposite of what you're supposed to fucking do. These people are unbelievable. We're letting these people get... And then what does he do? He pardons the Binance guy and then claims, I don't know who he is. You know who he is. He's running one of the biggest crypto coin purveyors in the world, Binance, which is a China-based company. It's made in China. It's created there. It's how a lot of the people get their crypto coins. It's the platform they use. National Guard in each state is ordered to create quick reaction forces, right? We saw that. In case there's civil unrest. So that's what I think the plan was, right? He's going to cut off the food stamps, which cuts off the people abusing food stamps as well. Does it hurt people that really need food stamps? Yeah, unfortunately it does. That's the bad part. Because a lot of people need food stamps, period. Are there people that abuse the system and are getting food stamps who shouldn't be? Yeah. And there's some people that abuse it big. So they need to redo the whole system to a better way where people don't need food stamps, where inflation isn't so out of control where like an apartment is costing so much money that you can't afford it, right? Like if you go back to like the late 60s and you were trying to buy, say, an apartment in New York, you could probably maybe afford it on a salary that you were getting a decent salary. But now you can't. Even if you're making $50,000 a year, you almost can't really afford to buy that apartment. You don't make enough to pay the mortgage payment, and it's going to cost too much. It's going to be like that one bed's going to cost you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. No, we need it to be that the one bed costs you like $95,000. Studios costing maybe $60,000, $50,000. Then people could do it, right? We got to reset the dollar. The dollar is so inflation heavy that it's almost worthless. And that's because you've been lending out 9 out of every $10 you create. National Guard is ordered to create reactionary quick force. Is that to stop who knows what? Shouldn't they already have something like that? Partial remains handed over by Hamas. They're not hostages. So they're giving you fake bodies that aren't even their own, the real people. And where were they keeping these bodies all the time? Ukraine IDs the locations of 239 abducted children and compile a list of Russians who tried to erase their identities. So are people snatching kids? Are the Russians trying to take kids out of Ukraine? Why would they do that? The FDA restricts kids' fluoride supplements over health risks. Yeah, I said get a fluoride-free toothpaste if you want to open your third eye. If not, keep using Crest and all that shit. You'll never open your third eye. It'll be completely calcified. That's what fluoride does. It calcifies your pineal gland so you can never... I remember when my pineal gland decalcified, I could feel a crack in my forehead. I was like, what the hell was that? I started looking up, stuff about the pineal gland, and I realized, oh, finally, my pineal gland like uncalcified a bit, or maybe fully, I don't know. And the way you can uncalcify your pineal gland is to use a fluoride-free toothpaste, stop using roll-on deodorants, or especially the gel ones are the worst. So stop using those with heavy metals in them. You can get like different ones like Tom's or Schmidt's. They have, I think, there's different roll-ons that have no heavy metals or parabens or whatever they call it, right? No heavy metals in it. You don't want that because it's going right into your armpit, right? And the last part is stop drinking fluoridated water. You're going to have to get alkaline water or something like that, which costs more money, but it pays big dividends in the end. Carney apologizes to Trump about anti-tariff ad by Ontario. Yeah, he's hurting right now. He's like, shit, I fucked up. I should have just not done that. And he spent all kinds of money to do it. So they arrested some of the Sudanese executioners after El Fasher killings. That's good news, I guess. But did they get everybody? I mean, these guys are just riding around shooting people, right? Ragtag style. Chile's president pushes constitutional reform for more border control. So each state needs to secure their border, right? That's part of this. Center-left candidate Rob Jetten wins Dutch election in close race. Trump sets record low refugee cap, most slots for white South Africans. Yeah, I think he only has like 7,000 people allowed in per year. Biden had it in like hundreds of thousands, right? Kennedy says insufficient evidence to link Tylenol to autism. Somehow I'm thinking it's got to be something else. It's something in the food. It's something in something, right? What are all pregnant women eating? I don't know, or drinking. Why is it in France the autism rate so much less than here? Well, they don't get nearly as many vaccines as we do, but these kids are born with this thing where you're born with it, right? So it's something that's happening to them in the womb, in gestation, where something's affecting them and they're not is it genetic? Is it something like that? Well, why aren't they forming correctly in the womb, in the process, right? They're coming out different. They're changed in some way. Is there a way to reverse that? And how is it caused? We don't know. I'm assuming it's caused by pollution, by something in the food, by poisons that build up in the body over time, because we're all getting poisoned by these people. Lieutenant General Joe McGee retires amid alleged disagreements with the Pentagon, so another general stepping down. Lieutenant General Joe McGee. Government must use emergency funds for SNAP benefits. I mean, you'd think that they would, right? If Americans are in, where's the billionaires helping to fund that? It's only 40 million Americans. You can't feed 40 million people. Hey, Elon Musk, you got any spare cash? Sure he does. Could he fund SNAP for the next year? Easy. But they don't want to. They want to make it look like it's the Democrats doing it, right? Which it is, actually. National Guard will remain deployed in Washington, D.C. until February. Mamdani losing with every religious group except Muslims. So how does he win? He was losing with every religious group, and yet he still somehow wins every borough except Staten Island. Meta stock loses $214 billion in market cap and biggest single-day decline in 3 years. That just hurt Zuckerberg's pocket bad. That's the kind of day when a guy like Zuckerberg just says, I'm going to shut that computer off and I'm going to go walk around my Hawaiian estate and, whatever, right? Meta predicted 2026 will see notably larger capital expenditure growth in dollar terms compared to this year. Eric Adams expands the NYPD to 40,000 officers, largest in decades. Why would you do that right before you're about to leave office? That doesn't make any sense. You should have done that 3 years ago when we had all the people that were, instead of letting people get out of jail. And who did we re-elect? Alvin Bragg. The same DA who's letting all the people off, who's allowing the people, the no bail, some 70+% people voted for Bragg here in New York. So there you go. Either the right, either people aren't voting or whoever's voting is not real New Yorkers, because that doesn't seem right. Here's a guy who spent the whole last 4 years letting all kinds of people out of jail, who resulted in all kinds of people getting hurt, and they re-elect him with 75+% re-election with votes. 70+% votes. That's insane. That's a group of people that are living in some kind of crazy fantasy that they can't even get out of, or a nightmare. You just keep re-electing the same tortured, horrible people over and over again. Republicans moved to impeach Judge Boasberg for enabling Jack Smith's Arctic frost scandal. Yeah, they got Trump's phone over that? Well, what were they doing in there? Outrage, a Swedish court refuses to deport convicted rapist. PM promises crackdown. Quote, those who commit serious crimes in Sweden are not Swedish citizens must leave the country, and are not Swedish citizens must leave the country. Yeah. Right? If you're here and then you commit a crime, boom, I don't care what it is. You should just get deported immediately. I don't care if you stole a candy bar. You're over here, we're helping you, we let you come into our country, and you commit any kind of violent act, it should be instant deportation. And or jail and then deportation. Trump pushes War Department to test nuclear weapons. The U.S. president claims renewed testing, the first time in 30 years. It's a bunch of bullshit. I think they did do one test of like a Minuteman rocket or something. I think what he went to Asia for was to try to beg them to bail us out, and then China's not going to do it anymore. They're not going to keep buying, T-bills and different government bonds from us anymore to bail us out. British lawmakers vote against inquiry into rape gang scandal. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Wednesday the victims of sexual abuse by grooming gangs needed action, not another inquiry, as opposition leader Kemi Badenoch pressed for a national inquiry. So the British lawmakers, they don't want that coming out, that they let a lot of Muslim men come over, and what did they start doing? They started raping women. And every single country that they were in, they did that. In Sweden, they did it. In France, they did it. In Germany, they did it. And all those countries suppressed the rape statistics. They call them Asians. They label them as Asians instead of Muslim men or Arab men or whatever you want to, or label them from the country that they're from. They call them Asian men so to try to hide the fact that it's not Asian men that are raping these women. Asian men actually have the lowest rape statistics, I would think, of all the different categories probably. Except maybe Japan, there might be a high rate of rape, but not nearly as high as what's happening when you let these military age, mostly Asian, not Asian, Muslim men into your country. The rape statistics go up big time. That's what they were hiding. Why? Because they want to wipe out the white races, the ones that have the most lineage of white, the oldest white races like Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Germany, others. Trump declines to rule out underground nuclear tests. Fuming Dems want Hochul out of office over Zoran Mamdani endorsement. Yeah, you shouldn't have endorsed Mamdani. It's not your party. He's an obvious socialist. Why would you endorse that person? Because you're part of the deep state plan. That's what Mamdani's part of it. They want everybody in New York going crazy, and that's what's about to happen, I'm assuming. But this guy's also broken several different laws. There's a chance that he might never become mayor still, because I think there's going to be investigations into the money he took from foreign adversaries. I think there should be more looking into what happened in this voting, who voted and how they voted. Or do they have undercovers working inside any of these voting booth places where people are, who knows who's, how they're doing this process. I had to do a double check-in. Like first at the front you check in and tell them where your address is, and then they say, okay, go to this table. Then there's another table when you get down there, they tell you, okay, where are you going? So it's actually a triple process. But you never have to show an ID at any time. House Republicans exploring ways to prevent Mamdani from being sworn in as New York City mayor if he wins. There's some question as to whether or not he's actually an American citizen, too. That's the other part of it. As well as you cheated. University chancellor confirms darkest fears about who is really behind the pro-Palestine campus unrest. Assuming it was Soros-type people paying these kids to do it. Watchdog alleges Soros-linked charities violated federal law, engaged in $40 million in money laundering to create grassroots campaign. Yeah, that's what they did from Mamdani. And they financed other stuff. Antifa. White-collar fraud said that $40.9 million flowed through the 9 distinct channels, all traceable to Soros networks, that was going to Mamdani. So that's also illegal. Funds raised from Mamdani through their Soros that they're now showing, which is also illegal. Which means they should both be removed, and the Mamdani should be removed from the race because he took cash and he took other monies that he wasn't allowed to take from other charities that were linked to Soros that violated federal law, because they're not allowed to give to political parties some of these things, especially if they're a non-profit group, right? You're not supposed to be giving your money then to funneling your money into some political charity, political party, I mean. Trump threatens to go into Nigeria, guns a-blazing, if the slaughter of Christians doesn't stop. It seems like the hawks are in full-fledged, want to get us involved in some kind of war right now. Son of LA Crips leader and music executive Eugene Big U Henley was shot dead on Halloween, so that may have been... That's the son of a Crips leader, so it is also a music exec, which means what? That some of the gangs got involved and created their own music labels to take advantage of that genre, right? And making, and allowing some people who are in their gangs who can rap to make money, another money stream for them. I wrote possible gang war was just started because if it turns out that it was a blood gang that killed this Crip leader's son, there could be another Crips. I mean, the Crips and Bloods are always at war with each other, but I thought there was some kind of loose truce going on, but maybe not. There's always people fighting around in some of these gang areas, right? Furious leaders question why they weren't warned over dangerous levels of radiation detected at former San Francisco Naval Shipyard. Wonder what they were using over there. Well, a lot of those old torpedoes and certain things have, who knows what they got inside those. Depleted uranium is in some of the rounds that were used in the tank rounds over. A lot of Gulf War vets got cancer because they didn't realize, oh shit, I'm around depleted uranium in these shells all the time. Pennsylvania diocese apologizes after Catholic school's Halloween float features a replica of Auschwitz Gate. Double confirmation. Tanzania's president keeps job amid election protests. UPI News. Judge blocks proof of citizenship requirement for mail-in voting. So you don't have to have proof of citizenship to mail-in vote. You can just mail-in vote. And there was a lot of mail-in votes in the 151,000. There was a big surge in the days before the election. I think that's where they cheated. That's what I'm thinking. It doesn't make sense that 6 million people didn't vote. Scott Adams asked Trump to save his life, intervene with Kaiser to get treatment with new cancer drug. And they did. And Trump apparently did help him. But he didn't get a med bed, right? No med bed for you. Trump orders military to prepare strikes on Nigerian militants. And 42 million lost SNAP benefits, despite efforts to fund. You know what? If you can help somebody around you, help somebody around you, right? If we all help the person nearest us, we can help everybody, or most people, right? If you see someone struggling at the store to pay for that couple of bucks extra and you got a little extra, help them out, right? That's all. If you don't. I'm not saying go broke over it, but hey, if you can help that guy in the street with an extra $1 or $2, you don't know what he's going through. He might have a few bucks and might need just $1 or $2 more to get that food, to get that meal, to get what he needs. You don't know, right, what that dollar or two might do for somebody. Trust me, it could mean a lot. When you don't have a lot, somebody helping you just that little bit means so much. It shows people that, hey, I see you. You're not invisible. I acknowledge you, right? There's so many people suffering in New York where, like I was saying before, when I walked up to Midtown a while back, there's like mothers with like these kids just sitting in the streets now, right? That are illegal aliens that don't have any work, that can't get jobs, and they're starving. And people will just walk right over your starving ass here. They don't give two shits. Some guy might walk right by your starving ass and go eat a $300 dinner, $500 steak dinner, right? With wines that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars while you're sitting outside in the cold, freezing your ass off, right? There's something fundamentally wrong with that in a society that allows that, right? In my view, ex-CIA Director John Brennan explodes as he's confronted about Hunter Biden's laptop. Yeah, you see he was pointing his finger in that guy's chest? You're lucky that wasn't me, man. I'd have probably headbutted you. Don't ever put your finger in my chest. Ever again. What are you doing? Don't even touch me. Because if you touch me, I touch you, right? That's the rule. New York City principal under probe showered taxpayer funds on pals, including Jay-Z's bankrupt ex-manager and his wife. That's odd. Why would you do that for? Well, you're helping your friends out. NYPD detective removed from Israel post after nearly 2 decades. So did you know that the NYPD has a post in Israel? This guy's been over there in Israel for years, and he's from the NYPD, though. Why is he working in Israel for? That's odd. Can the NYPD please explain that position? Why that guy's doing that? And why are we paying for it? The young hoopsters and violent mobsters who first stained basketball with scourge of gambling. So you can go back to the 50s, I think the 60s, when some of the earliest, I think it was the 50s when some of the earliest point shaving stuff started going on, right? It just takes one star player off a team to do it, who's cooperating, right? Who might score. Like, let's say it's a Will Chamberlain, so instead of him scoring 50, he's going to score maybe 20 one night. No big deal. They lose that game. Okay. It doesn't look too suspicious. I had an off night. I still had 25, though, instead of 55, when I could have had 70 or whatever, right? Wilter still scored 100 points in one game. So. Yeah, I had an off day. I lost that game for you. You made a crazy, profit. Manhattan-sized interstellar object 3i Atlas accelerates and turns bluer. Possible signs of alien engine. Oh, wow. So does AI Atlas come by the Earth and say, hey, dude, like, we're here, like, this is what's up? Or is it like a fear tactic they're trying to use, and then they're going to do a fake alien invasion as they go out? Because that's the only thing they have left. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if I lost the battle, why wouldn't I just go away or give in, right? Well, instead, these people seem to just keep doing fear event after chaos event till the end without stopping, ever, right? It just never seems to end. Why can't we find the people that are ordering these things to be done and stop them, right? How woke NBA executives got mixed up with the mob and an epic gambling scandal? Yeah, all these new things that came around in the last 15 years, those online gambling things with your phone, it makes it super easy to gamble, and that's not good because most people are bad gamblers, right? Especially when you're trying to bet on sports, it's super hard. Some sports, like college football, is hard to bet on that. The spreads are super big. It's not that easy to pick, and remember, you used to see kids in high school would bet with the bookies, like, and they have to pick 7 wins, 7 pro football team wins. Trump says he's not considering military strikes inside Venezuela. Since September, the U.S. military has launched several strikes on vessels in the Caribbean Sea. So he's saying 2 different things. He seems like he made it look like he's going in there, and now he's not. About 80 missing children were rescued and 1,700 people arrested in Memphis, Tennessee. Last month, the federal government announced it would send National Guard troops and federal agents to the Tennessee city. 80 missing children. So you're seeing that they're starting to infiltrate inside the human smuggling routes that go from New York and then they spread west. They all the way to Los Angeles. They spread south to Florida, all the way down to Georgia and Atlanta, right through the I-95 corridor. They spread down through Texas to places like New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, right? There's a whole network set up of how human beings and drugs are moved all over the United States that the cartels have set up, that other people have set up. Resurfaced Obama video blasting shutdown blackmail now haunts Democrats amid new standoff. The former president once slammed the shutdowns as irresponsible. Democrats have blocked 13 GOP reopening attempts. So it's definitely their shutdown. Pledging allegiance to Somalia is becoming common among Democratic candidates in some blue cities. Why would you pledge allegiance to Somalia? Because that's how many Somalians they let into Michigan. And Minnesota, right? Or is it Minnesota that has more Somalis? I think it's Minnesota. Ex-CIA Director Brennan explodes. He was confronted. He's getting scared. Looks like they're coming closer to getting to him. Bill Clinton shows up at the New York City Marathon finish line with a mysterious bandage on his nose as he was hugging Chelsea. Apparently ran the marathon. Washington Supreme Court upholds a $185 million verdict against Monsanto for PCB poisoning of teachers. Ruling marks the first time a state Supreme Court fully upheld punitive damages against the company in multiple cases related to Sky Valley Education Center. Just the news. That's a big deal right there. That could hold Monsanto liable for more damages from other teachers possibly. They could maybe they have a class action lawsuit against them. Turnout for New York City mayoral race is reaching historic levels. Yeah, 25%. Historic. Historic would be 65%, 70%, 75%, not 25%. Turnout for the race is not historic. It was actually just as bad as it was 4 years ago when Eric Adams won, when he shouldn't have never won. Queens Democrat Party snubs own Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani, refuses to endorse him for New York City mayor. New Orleans scraps $125 million request after state of Louisiana threatens takeover. Governor Jeff Landry urged the state lawmakers to deny the borrowing and pressed the state's Fiscal Review Committee to consider appointing a court-supervised fiscal administrator to manage the city's money. So the city is so bad at managing its own money and they don't want anybody outside coming in. Just like in New York, where they don't want any outsiders coming in here trying to figure out what the hell happens at $200 billion that you go spend every year, and yet you're still crying poor, right? You still can't fund your food stamps. You should have, if you have a budget of $240 billion, you should have some emergency funds in there somewhere. Unless you're very, very bad at managing money or you're stealing a large amount of it, right? Which is what's going on in New York. Trump DOJ intervenes in a long-simmering election integrity dispute over the 2020 election in Georgia. The Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office documented widespread irregularities with voting procedures and counting in Fulton during the 2020 election, although most say the irregularities did not tip the election. But there was many. What do you mean? What about those people that were loading the ballots in, remember? What about Ruby Freeman and her daughter, who allegedly were shoving the ballots in on video that we saw over and over again, but yet when a case was brought against them, they somehow magically got away with it. Even though you see them shoving the same ballots over again and again to the machines. And we know that there was no leak in the convention center in Atlanta. There was just a small leak. It wasn't anything that would have needed to shut down the whole election process in that counting in the counting there. Plus, we know that Brad Raffensperger's Undersecretary of State's sister had met Wang Ping. Remember? And we covered that in a dig I did a long, long time ago. So there was that back channel between Raffensperger and Raffensperger's Undersecretary of State and Fuchs, I think, was her last name, right? It was the sister's last name. Devastating impact of Mamdani's election will be far worse than first thought. Exclusive poll finds America's greatest city facing historic population wipeout. Yeah. Maybe New York has to be deconstructed because although it's a beautiful city, I've noticed it's just been heartbreaking to watch what the Democrats have done to it over the last, 25 years. They have destroyed this place. And they had plenty of opportunities to make it into a great, great place. And over the last, especially 5 years, they have just done so much damage to this place. What used to give New York so much of its character was the different small businesses that were in every different neighborhood, that some still exist, but so many have been wiped out. That was part of these people's plan, right? Keep you in your house with the COVID nonsense for 3, 4, 5 years while they tried to work on a vaccine that never would come because there was no vaccine, wasn't even needed. All you needed was some vitamin fucking C, some ivermectin, or some hydroxychloroquine, which they would never allow you to know would wipe this out, right? Then they'd have you in your house 3, 4, 5 years, cohabitating, becoming more depressed, suicide rates go up, drug use goes up. Of course, they start to legalize more drugs in the cities like New York, where they legalize marijuana, have more people smoking, stuff like that. Little by little, they degrade what made the city great. The rents are too high. Nobody can afford to live here anymore. All the cool people can't come live here anymore like they used to be able to do. The creative types, the artists, the musicians, the writers. They can't afford to come here and live and be in the energetic circle that they need to be in with others of their kind, other writers, to create that sort of energy that will give you sort of like what happened in the 60s and the 70s with punk rock and with rock and roll, or with some of the Beat Generation poets, or with some of the other poets like Wordsworth and Byron of their days, right? They had to be able to come together in some kind of urban center where there was a mishmash of energies that can transform the creative aspect in people, right? That can transform the artist into something great when they may not have been great just sitting in their room trying to write a song. You dig? Why? Well, because I need experience. I need something to happen to me. I need to fall in love. I need to be rejected. I need to be mugged. I need to be beat up. I need to be scared. I need to be in love. I need to be happy. I need to be everything. And I can't do that sitting in a fucking room. I gotta be out in the world experiencing shit. Right? Have you ever been experienced, right? Remember Jimi Hendrix? I have. That's what he was talking about. You gotta be out there, doing shit. Having shit done to you. Suffering. Right? Being in joy. All of it. The whole mishmash. They're trying to rob us of that now. They're trying to rob us of our city. They're trying to steal it from us, but they can't. They can't steal its original identity, and the energy is still here, right? There's a lot of love still here. They can't kill that. They can try. Mamdani, I don't think is going to even last 4 years. He's going to end up getting indicted on multiple different charges because he took money from Soros, indicted from Soros charities and others that he shouldn't have been taking money from, foreign people that he shouldn't have been allowed to take money from. Trump claims he knows nothing about the pardoned crypto boss who helped make his family billions. Yeah, when he's doing the 60 Minutes interview, he has no idea who this guy is. Sure you do. He's the head of Binance. You telling me you don't know who he is? Come on, dude. Your son's doing business with him. Your sons are making money in crypto. They're making a lot of money in crypto. But what are you seeing? The cryptos are getting decimated. I saw XRP down at $2.20. I saw one of those crypto coins was down 15% in a week. That's too volatile for me. And if you listen to the newest Kimberly Goguen, I pinned it to the top of my Rumble feed. She's saying that the feds don't have access to the crypto coins anymore, that they had backdoor access. Saudi Arabia pauses its $2 trillion giga project. Remember the line, and we were talking about all those cities they were going to build? They're not going to build that. That's way too big. Like I said, who's going to go live there? Who's going to be able to afford to go live there? In this post-apocalyptic type city you want to build, who's going to be able to afford it? Not many. My student loan hasn't been excused. You haven't excused any other people's debt. We're not in a debt jubilee yet, like they keep saying. I got them threatening me now that they're coming after me for the loan. I'm upside down. This was always a bad idea. No one wants to live in this monstrosity that you were going to create, 100-mile long wall that's 100 stories high, that birds are going to be crashing into day in and day out. You know how many bird corpses are going to be laying on the... You're going to kill whole bird species with this thing. Because they can't see that it's a window. And it's 100 stories high. That's tall. This thing was never going to be able to be built. It would cost so much money. I think it's probably more than $2 trillion to build all 3 cities that they wanted to build. Plus, who's going to buy all those condos and co-ops, whatever you're going to make there? Who's going to lease all that commercial space in this economy that's going down the fucking toilet? They realized they were going to take a huge hit. And then you got to tear it all down, and that costs a lot of money. You got to get rid of all that garbage. That costs a lot of money. So they just decided to cut tail right now before they build the majority of the thing, and then have to tear it down. Remember when this first was going up, I said, this is never going to happen. It's way too big. Who's going to want to live in it? Who's going to want to pay all this money to live in it? In the middle of freaking no place? Where'd they try to make a bunch of people go to a place in the middle of no place? It was a place that they made called Israel, right? The Rothschilds bought a ton of land from the Ottoman Turks who owned the majority of Palestine during the time of the Ottoman Empire. When that caved, those people wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, and they had thousands of hectares of land. They said, yeah, we'll sell it to you. Sure. Here it is. Now, how can I get a whole bunch of people to come give up everything that they're doing with their lives and move to the middle of no place? That's not easy to do. And most people are not going to do it. North Carolina Democrat lawmaker resigns after being charged with child sex crimes. Another Democratic pedophile. Obama refuses to endorse radical New York City mayoral frontrunner Mamdani. Why didn't Obama endorse? Well, because Mamdani's a socialist. He's going to try to do socialist stuff now in the city. What happens if you do a rent freeze? The landlords are going to start crying, saying, well, I got to heat that building all winter and my heat costs are going up. How am I got to raise the rent or else I'm losing money now. I'm not making a profit on this building anymore. And I can't sell it. And then they're going to sue the state. And these guys got a lot of power. North Korea slams denuclearization of Korean Peninsula as a pipe dream. Yeah, you think that Kim's just going to lay down everything he's been building? Because you say so? Because Trump visits? And then Trump said, oh, I might visit Kim. And Kim said, you're not visiting here. You know why? Because Kim knows that's not the real Trump, is my guess. That's the fake Trump. And if he met that Trump, they'd try to kill him, is my guess. Remember those pundits I wrote who claimed North and South Korea would unify? That never happened so far. Remember all those people that said there'd be a EBS for 10 straight days? There'd be 10 days of darkness and EBS would be going off on your TV all the time? Never happened. Why didn't that happen the first day Trump got in? That's what I'd do. Hey, here's all the crimes these people did. I'm going to go march into Area 51. Next week I'll have live footage of me inside there ripping that thing open. Did he ever do that? No. Did he even mention UFOs? No. Did he mention Tesla Towers? No. Did he mention medical beds? No. He just did one time and then nothing else. Where's the update on that? Treasury Secretary Bessent, Snap may be back by Wednesday. We'll see. Isn't today Wednesday? Yeah, it's not back. You lied. It's not back. FAA urges lawmakers to reopen the government amid staffing shortage. They're not reopening it. The FAA doesn't even have enough money, so which means what? Well, we can't. Some airports aren't going to be fully staffed. You're going to have to shut them down. Federal judge blocks National Guard deployment to Portland following 3-day trial. So now you can't. They're saying that now all these judges are getting in the way of the president's power, it seems like. Now they're saying, no, you can't send troops to Portland. Well, he says he wants to have a rapid response force in every state. Is the judge then going to say that's also illegal? Here's where CNN caught the vote switching in Pennsylvania on election night. This is 2020. This is my November 9th show, 2020. The vote switch from Trump to Biden, 19,000 votes. If you want to watch it, you can. Right, we remember seeing that happen, the same thing when Newsom was on the Newsom recall. Remember, there was like thousands and thousands of votes were going the other way when it was looking like Newsom was easily going to be recalled. And then all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of votes just got beamed off of that vote total. And we saw that happen in the Newsom thing, and we saw it also happen in the 2020 election. Live, directly on the camera, multiple times where CNN caught that vote switching. 20 reasons to vote against New York City mayoral frontrunner Zoran Mamdani. Well, most people didn't read that article. They voted for him, or he was. I don't think he actually did win. Because 25% of the people voting doesn't happen in a city this size. It shouldn't, especially on a big election like this. O'Keefe Media Group catches nonprofit instructing undercover journalist non-citizen how to illegally vote for Mamdani. So, right here, the O'Keefe Media found something. And if it's just one, there's more than one person that illegally voted for Mamdani. How many people allegedly illegally voted for Mamdani is the question. O'Keefe Media Group catches nonprofit instructing undercover journalist non-citizen, quote-unquote, how to illegally vote for Mamdani. Here's Pedro Rodriguez, the guy that starts with an M. So here's a nonprofit in New York has been exposed by a journalist posing as a non-citizen how to illegally vote for Mamdani. So why isn't that being why isn't anybody looking into this yet? Maybe they will. And how many other people illegally were instructed on how to vote for Mamdani? Because New York, again, does not even ask for a driver's license as ID. Mamdani spews word salad after Barack Obama endorsement snub. So friends, we're going to take a quick break. I need to get a little more of a drink. I've been at it an hour and 17. That's pretty good. I got through almost a lot of articles quickly. That's what I was trying to do. Speed up a little bit, not speak so much. I hope you're doing well, working out stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend in New York, Ash, or what is now probably known as Russia East. Communist Headquarters, New York edition. I can tell you I am not any part of Communist Headquarters. I am third generation American and proud to be. I hope you're well, working out stretching. I'm going to go get this drink and get some little bit of air, and while I'm away, in this brief time, you could do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. I appreciate you. Okay, friends, I'm back. Thanks for that break. I needed that. So why did Obama not endorse Mamdani? Why did only 2 million New Yorkers vote when there's 8 million plus people here? Why is O'Keefe alleging that certain people were told how to vote illegally for Mamdani multiple times? Why was a TikToker saying he was going to vote 6 times for Mamdani? And if he did vote 6 times for Mamdani, and there's 50 other guys like that, that's thousands of votes illegal votes for Mamdani that could have swayed this election that was decided by less than, I believe, 100 or 200,000 votes. Because you have a very low voter turnout of 2.2, or even if it's 2.3 million New Yorkers turned out, there's 8.2 million New Yorkers live here now, or something like that. Even if it's 7.9 million, that's a lot of millions and millions of people that are not voting. The majority of the populace of the city does not vote. The question is why? Especially in one election where they're claiming that there's going to be record turnout, and there's only 25% turnout is not record. Even 30% is not record. Chilling video shows UK mass train stabbing suspect storm into barbershop with a huge knife one day before the rampage. I said, I'm surprised no weapon is kept in a place like a barber shop. I used to work in multiple businesses where all kinds of weapons were kept, from baseball bats to all kinds of stuff. Sticks, bats, guns, knives. I wrote, I'm surprised no weapon is kept in this place. No cricket bat even, nothing. A bat is a superior weapon to a knife, usually, in my book. It allows for distance and to strike and defend. Why do none of these businesses have any weapon at all? When I worked at places in the past, it wasn't uncommon to have more than one bat or a pipe. My old boss was retired NYPD. He kept 3 guns in his business at all times, plus a 2-way mirror to see the front of the store from the back. It'd blow your fucking head off. You try to go in there and fucking pull a gun at the front. Plus we had a panic button. All kinds of shit. So, not surprised that nobody challenged the dude. If he walks in with a butcher knife, most people are going to run. Yeah, you're not going to try to go hand to hand with that dude, because if you lose big, right? You'll probably lose your life. In a knife fight, if you don't have a knife, you're at a disadvantage, unless you really are good with your hands and know how to fight and defend a guy with a knife. Which is the best thing to do with a guy with a knife, is keep moving. And if he lunges towards you, try to get that hand right away from you. Block that hand away from you somehow without getting stabbed. Excuse me. My boss would have blown your fucking brains out. You come in his store and try to rob it. Trust me on that. He's got 357 Magnum at the desk. He'll shoot you right through the glass. He doesn't even have to come out. And he was an itchy trigger finger type of dude. That was nervous type. So one time a guy came in, he looked suspicious. And he was just, it was a video store, and he was just signing up for a new membership. He was asking a bunch of questions. The boss got nervous in the back, said, dude, I almost shot the guy. I said, are you kidding me? You didn't even come out first? You just shoot the guy? You're thinking about shooting the guy right from the back, huh? Crazy bastard. These are the types of peeps you come across in New York. Trump administration agrees to partially fund SNAP despite government shutdown. He was a scary dude, my ex-boss. He was like one of these Italian guys, 5'4", 5'5", like built like a brick shithouse though, right? You ever see the bodybuilder like Franco Columbo, that type of guy? He's like same build. Big shoulders, big thick arms, big thick hands. Guy grab a hold of you, you know. I see him chuck a guy halfway across the room once, just with his bare hands. Just chuck him. Just pushed him halfway across the room. Scary, scary strong. He's the type of boss where he says, hey, you want to do me some favor? Yeah, I'll do it. Sure. Want me to work overtime? No problem. Foreign election interference. UK leftist campaign for Mamdani in New York City race. There was all kinds of foreign interference in this race. There was people betting on the outcome for Mamdani to win. Is that what happened? Somebody voted for Mamdani to win and they wanted him to win so bad that they manipulated. Well, no, now they have a Muslim mayor in the biggest city in the United States. One of the most powerful cities. So the Comet 3i Atlas, or the spacecraft 3i Atlas, whatever it is now visible from Earth with a small telescope. So now you're going to start having, like, little telescope guys all over the place coming out with pictures of this thing and seeing what it really looks like, right? Soon. So if it is a craft, just uncloak it and show us so we don't get scared. Remember when there was this guy that came on the English news stations years ago in the 70s, and he said, hey, I'm this guy, and we're trying to help you guys, right? Is that how we break this spell? Is that how everybody just wakes up in one day when these aliens come and they're friendly? And they're not crazy and they're not trying to kill us like all the movies are? But they're not E.T.? Let's hope they're not some furry creature, E.T. There's someone that freaks everybody out. Like, hopefully they're like human looking if they are aliens coming. And I don't know if they are. When I think about what this thing is, I don't think it's a comet. Because it's not acting like a comet. It's moving around and shit and doing things that comets don't do. Comets don't change course. They're on a trajectory, and that's the trajectory it stays in. Unless something changes that trajectory, which could be gravity from another planet or some other thing that we're not aware of, right? Maybe it hits into something else. It crashes into another comet or another rock or some space debris, and it changes its course somehow. But this thing went around the sun to the behind the sun, and then it was doing all kinds of shit, right? And I'm sick of these people. Oh, it's going to land on planet Earth on Christmas Day. All right, well, we'll see. If it doesn't, I'm going to be the one saying, hey, remember that guy who was saying that? They were wrong. Pete Hegseth visits DMZ between North and South Korea. So Hegseth went to the DMZ. That was interesting. He was the first Pentagon chief who went there in 8 years. We saw Dick Cheney apparently died, but Kim Goguen saying that Dick Cheney was dead years ago. They just decided to let people know he was dead now because they ran out of clones. What's the point of keeping someone like him alive if he's dead, though? I mean, what is he doing while he's alive? Is he doing a service for you somehow? Oregon Dem Melissa Fireside declared international fugitive after fleeing the U.S. with a young son. She could be headed to Austria. So an Oregon Democratic person has now fled the country with his son. China's President Xi caught knifing Trump in brutal attack just hours after the summit. Yeah, he didn't speak too nicely about America. He didn't like the fact of what Trump's doing with the tariffs. Trying to raise money because he has no money. And then you go what? Then you go and beg the Chinese for cash after you raise the tariffs on them? They probably laughed in your face. He's making us look like a fucking international joke. You can't fund SNAP? Are you kidding me? You just funded the military. Why not fund SNAP too? Why not ask Elon to do it? You think Elon cares if poor people eat in the United States? He doesn't give two fucks if you starve. He knows you're not buying a Tesla, so what does he care about you? 85-year-old Nancy Pelosi confronted about reports she's finally set to relinquish power. Yeah, Pelosi's probably running the clones for her too, right? That's another one that's probably been dead for years. Well, these people have been kept in a pocket universe. Why are they showing us all the stuff that Kim Goguen was just telling us about pocket universe, the space in between, and then what happens? Fucking Superman comes out. And what happens in Superman? There's a pocket universe that happens to just be accessible via portal. Oh, really? Wow. Shit. I mean, they've been showing us portals in Stargate SG-1 came out, Stargate. That was a portal show. That was all about I think that program's probably real. There was also a mutant in the X-Men series of movies that could create in the Days of Future Past, I think it was, the X-Men Days of Future Past movie, which was based on the short comic book. I actually have that comic book. The Steve Byrne, was it? The artist Joe Byrne? Steve? Forgot the artist's name, but he did the art for that. It's worth a bit of money. But that was like a future thing where those robots start to try to kill the mutants, right? A lot of the mutants get wasted in the future. One of those mutants can create portals. And it could be a portal that lets you out like right in the other room, or it could be a portal that takes you who knows where. And who was the other person that could do portals? Was Doctor Strange. Right? Can do portals. J.D. Vance declares himself a UFO lunatic as he vows to pull back the curtain on government secrets. Freedom for All said he needs to concentrate on election fraud. Agreed. But we need some some real UFO disclosure that's not some guy at a desk showing me some files of some grainy footage of some UFO on a sonar fucking screen. I want to see a UFO craft in person that we have reverse engineered, that we have floating in a hangar like in X-Files. That's what we need to see. And we need to see people go up in that craft with press, with cameras, watching from the ground and inside the craft. Comey had expected to work for President-elect Clinton. New top aide was talking to media. Emails referenced in a bombshell court filing by acting U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, in which the government rejected Comey's argument that he was being maliciously prosecuted for providing false statements and obstructing Congress about actions he took as FBI director. So he was going to work for Hillary. He was expecting that when Hillary won, he would be kept on, just like Trump did, right? Either way, he wins, right? Think about it. Hillary gets in, he knows he's got a job. What was surprising was that Trump kept him in, right? That's what I always thought was surprising. Why would you keep this guy in? If you did your research on his pedigree, you knew that he helped HSBC cover up the fact that they were money laundering for drug cartels. He covered up the Clintons' misdoings as well during Obama's last term. He covered up what Hillary was doing. She had a server, right? And if you don't think Obama knew about that, he must have known. Zoran Mamdani poses as Cheap Seats Knicks fan in the cringe fest political stunt. He was so cringy what he did in Ari's stream, and then he came back for a second time. He asked Ari to come back around Washington Square Park for a second time so he could get on and try to rap and make himself look cool again, and he can't rap. He had no bars. I'm surprised he got Ari to do it because Ari's Jewish, which was interesting. And I'm wondering if he got paid for that or not. He should have if he didn't. That should have been like a political commercial he gave you. You should have paid him $25,000 for that. Easy. That's how much political ads go for a 30-second clip. And this guy gave you access to, what, 5 million people? Between the 3 million he's got on Instagram and the 2 million he's got on, the 1.2 million he's got on YouTube, plus whatever he's got on TikTok, which is probably another milli by now. You can't buy political access like that. You can't buy that kind of, it's very expensive usually to get access like that to that many people. Mamdani campaign in coordination with at least 1.8 million in super PAC spending complaints. So there's a complaint against him, right? He's getting money from all these PACs in different places that you're not allowed to get money from. Socialist darling Zoran Mamdani's mayoral campaign is being accused of steering millions in outside super PAC spending, according to a new complaint filed with the city's campaign finance board. So there has been a complaint filed with the city's campaign finance board. The filing alleges and claims to have identified 1.8 million in questionable expenditures on behalf of Mamdani's team, focusing on the timing and spending by vendors paid by the campaign, as well as 2 known independent expenditure committees: We the People in America for All, WFP Working Families Party, National PAC, charged complaint Jennifer Brown. Dick Cheney passes away, or the fake Cheney that was around is gone, so they can't use him anymore. His usefulness is over. Senate Majority Leader says he doesn't have the votes to eliminate filibuster despite Trump's wishes, so they can't reopen the government. It's Schumer shut down. It's hurting the Democratic Party really bad, though, right? Yep. Some CEOs are about to revolt against a Zoran Mamdani win. Jamie Dimon says he'll call him and offer his help. Tanzanian president sworn in for second term amid deadly clashes. So Africa's on fire. There's been multiple coups. There's been massive amounts of killings of Christians in different lands, Sudan, other countries. There's a lot of countries that are in turmoil right now in Africa. Senate GOP blocks Dem effort to fund SNAP. They won't allow it. They're going to let their people starve. And a lot of Democrats are on, believe me, a lot of Democrats are on food stamps. The majority are Democrats. That's for sure. Those are the people that re-elect Bragg after he gets rid of bail and lets violent criminals back out to hurt the citizens of New York, and they re-elect them 75%. Or even 70%. That is a slap in the face, especially to the families of those who have been injured, hurt, killed by these policies. Jersey City mayoral candidate dubbed the Black Zone, Mamdani vows to provide free legal services for illegal aliens facing deportation. The morning briefing, it's come to this: Republicans are rooting for Andrew Cuomo. I think Trump made a critical error. He should have stayed out of this race completely, or if not, he should have endorsed Sliwa. But you heard what the powers that be wanted to do. They offered Sliwa $10 million, and Sliwa doesn't have a lot of money. Trust me, he doesn't. If he does, he doesn't show he does. That must have been a super tempting couple of days for Sliwa to say, well, I'm probably going to lose anyway. Maybe I should drop out. Give these fuckers what they want. Who gives a shit? Hey, I fought the good fight, and $10 million looks awful good right now. But he didn't want that on his pedigree, right? He didn't want to go out. He's going to go out on his shield, and I give him credit for not bowing to the pressure. I think really in the end, Andrew Cuomo ran for the reason that he was going to be the stopper so that Sliwa couldn't win. They didn't want Sliwa to win. That's what it was. It wasn't about Mamdani. Mamdani was the one they wanted to win. It was never Cuomo. Cuomo was the spoiler. Now we know. Now we really see what the plan was. Right? Kill the mom and pop businesses. Force a lot of people to leave New York who are real New Yorkers, and replace those people with illegal aliens who will give their benefits to, and will give benefits to, and will give SNAP to, and will give apartments to, and will give temporary housing to, and will give hotel rooms to, and will give debit cards with thousands of dollars to, instead of giving it to the tax-paying citizens of New York City. Then we'll put in a socialist and we'll rig the vote so a socialist communist becomes mayor. Trump says if Mamdani wins the mayoral race, he'll give New York City minimal federal funding. Well, he can cut a lot, right? And if Mamdani is any kind of a truth agent, which he may be, try to do somewhat of the right thing. We'll see if he tries to crack into the crime and the graft, or if he gets absorbed by it. And the people that run him don't care. They just want to steal more. We'll see. Because if he ever does look into the city's bonds and all that crap, the city's municipal bonds and all this stuff, it's going to be a lot of graft. And eventually the city's going to probably have less money than they think. And they're going to be held to account for where's the $200 billion, where's all the money that disappeared, and they won't know because it's been stolen. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send as president good money after bad, President Trump said. So he might give very little. That's what happened in the mid-'70s when the city was basically bankrupt, and President Ford at the time says, hey, tough shit, sorry, we're not going to bail you out. The country's already broke. We just got done with Vietnam. We spent billions of dollars we wasted there in money and lives for nothing to protect Goodyear's, rubber plantations and shit. And we got nothing to show for it now, right? Except we killed a whole bunch of Vietnamese and Americans got killed. And that's about it. And Cambodians got killed. Trump on Venezuela, Maduro's days are numbered, but no war. So how are they going to try to do like a bloodless coup with Maduro? Force him to step down, maybe pay him, do something. Maybe assassinate him, who knows? Massive fraud uncovered in the food stamp program, says agricultural secretary as benefits lapse. So we know that there's, for years, these kinds of agencies, there's been massive. I've heard stories of people who abuse that system. They'll just keep having more children so they get more benefits, so they get more assets. Sorry, you can hear that. I have the window open in the other room a little bit. It's kind of loud. Sorry about that. Hear a little New York siren action. Why not, right? Get real. Let's get real about everything. What's really going on in New York? It's like a pall hanging over the city today. It's almost like someone died here. And in a way, that's what's happened. The city is dying, right? They killed it on purpose. It's the end of a long periods of democratic rule where the city is being little by little destroyed by these people. Foreign charities have pumped $2 billion into U.S.-based leftist groups. Yeah, we're letting all these foreigners rule us, like Weiss and Soros, and we never do anything to these people. We never touch them. We never go after them. We never arrest them. We never question them. There were bomb threats in New Jersey and in 7 key counties yesterday during the election. Trump endorsed Cuomo. Warns against voting Republican. I mean, this is your party, though. Why don't you leave the Republican Party then, if you don't support it? Right? He should become, if he's, you should have run as an independent then, because you don't seem to be supporting the Democratic Party, not in New York. You totally turned your back on him. In fact, you turned around and supported your political enemy and the other party. So either switch to the Democratic Party, or I don't know what to tell you. You're not acting like a Republican, though, that's for sure. Republicans support Republicans. Even if they don't like the person particularly, they still support him, right? Why? Because that's your party and that's what you do. Trump endorses Cuomo, which didn't help, right? Didn't give him a bump in New York. Well, that wouldn't help you in New York, right? A lot of people hate Trump's guts here. They viscerally hate Trump. Peru severs relations with Mexico for granting asylum to their ex-prime minister. That's interesting. Peru is not talking to Mexico anymore. A Mexican protest after another mayor killed in Michoacan. This looks like the smoking gun in the case against Comey. Some interesting information's coming out. Security emergency shuts down flights at Washington, D.C. airport as Transport Secretary sounds alarm about mass chaos. Daily Mail. More people have already voted in the New York City mayoral race than all of 2021 with hours to go. This was around 6 p.m. yesterday where I was saying, what do you mean? How many more people voted? That was record low turnout the last time, so what does that mean? The other day, Bitcoin was down 10% on the week to 101,064 a coin. That's a lot. They shaved 20,000 off Bitcoin already almost. XRP was down 16% on the week to $2.20 a coin. New York City polling locations were swatted apparently. This comes after there were bomb threats sent to polling locations in Jersey. And then what happens? Mamdani comes out and alleges that it's Trump that did that. It's the Trump administration. D.C.'s Reagan National Airport halts all flights after bomb threat. Flights were grounded Tuesday after a reported bomb threat on a United Airlines flight arriving from Houston. Nancy Pelosi calls Trump the worst thing on the face of the earth. He's just a vile creature, she said. Quote unquote. The worst thing on the face of the earth. I don't know, is he? This must be something else. You're pretty vile as well, Nancy. I say they're both vile. I'm starting to get really upset that none of these technologies have been released. Every day people are dying more and more. And if you have medbed tech, you should have been releasing it a long time ago. Trump says SNAP benefits will remain frozen until the Democrats end the government shutdown. In a Truth Social post, Trump wrote that SNAP benefits will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up the government, which they can easily do and not before. Elusive Eric Adams noticeably absent from New York City mayoral polls. Did Adams vote? I didn't see him. He may have voted by mail-in or something. We don't know. Usually the mayor votes in public, right? In wherever he's set up to vote in whatever his district is or her district is. Elusive Eric Adams was not seen voting publicly. So we're not sure. Did he vote? Did he vote mail-in? If not, why didn't he vote in public? Children sue Tesla after parents were killed in fiery crash over alleged door handle failure. Yeah, why do you keep making cars where the door handle disappears into the door when the car's turned on? Right? I don't like that. Especially if something's wrong and I'm trying to get you out of the car, now I got to smash the windows to get you out. Biden DOJ seized Trump's official phone, subpoenaed private phone logs, Bondi says. What did they find on those logs? U.S. presents UN Secretary Council with its plan for international force to govern and secure Gaza. Harvard astrophysicists suggest interstellar object shows possible signs of artificial propulsion. Quote, alternatively, the non-gravitational acceleration might be the technological signature of an internal engine. Yeah, if it's starting to accelerate, that's not normal unless a body in motion stays in motion. What is the phrase, right? Usually, unless it's acted upon by an outside force, why would it be accelerating in its speed if its speed was at a certain rate? Unless it's slinging around a planet where it's that is accelerating it, or there could be something else, right? New York City turnout tops 1.7 million voters. This was 16 hours ago at 6 p.m. So this is election day, 6 p.m. There were more than 1.7 million New Yorkers had voted in the mayoral race, according to the Board of Elections. That included early voters and mail-in ballots. I sent this to a friend and he's like, that's just Manhattan, right? I'm like, no, this is all 5 boroughs with 3 hours left to vote. And only 1.7 million people had voted with 3 hours left to vote. What does that tell you? Well, even if 500,000 more voted, that's not much. Where's the other 4 million, 5 million plus people, 6 million people that should be voting? There's 8.2 million people in New York. What's the, something like that? This happened the same year as the 2020 election when I was saying, how come there's 17 million people or so in altogether, or 19 million, 20 million in the state of New York, but only not even half of them voted. It seems like there's a whole bunch of people on the rolls that never vote. New York City mayoral election live updates. Senator Chuck Schumer refused to reveal if he voted for Mamdani. I wrote, it appears that over 6 million people did not vote in this election, although they claim record turnout. Muslim group with deep terrorist ties, huge backer of Mamdani campaign. New York Post. Democrat Abigail Spanberger storms to Virginia victory and strong brushback to Trump. So all the Democrats won, basically. Now there's a former CIA agent that's now the governor of where? Virginia, which is the state where the CIA is located, right? So now basically it's possible that if this person is compromised, which I'm assuming they are, and they are run by an outside force, the CIA now has control of the state of Virginia, in some aspect possibly. J.D. Vance's half-brother suffers humiliating loss in mayoral race. So J.D. Vance's brother lost. He was he was participating in the Cincinnati mayoral race, I believe. Voters of Cincinnati roundly rejected Corey Bowman in favor of his Democratic opponent. Yeah, he lost the Cincinnati mayoral race. Zoran Mamdani wins the 2025 mayoral election, I posted, unfortunately. The question is, how did he win with such a small turnout, and where's all the rest of the people, and why didn't they vote? Nobody seems to be able to answer that question, and nobody in mainstream news is even asking that question. They're not mentioning the fact that so few people voted. They're saying it's record turnout. But record for what? A group of people that vote 20 to 30% in every election, and 70% don't vote? 13 suspected drug cartel members were killed in a shootout with Mexican police. 9 kidnapping victims were freed. Trump White House snubbed ex-VP Dick Cheney. They never mentioned that he died, or they didn't mention anything about him. They didn't offer condolences, which that might mean he's already dead. Andrew Cuomo's embarrassing loss to Zoran Mamdani in New York City mayoral election ends his family's political dynasty. Yep, pretty much. And you went out in disgrace because you should have already stopped being in the race and you couldn't accept defeat then. So what did you do? You changed party. You turned your back on the Democratic Party that had been at your back your whole life and supported you, and you turned your back on them like a traitor, and you joined and you became an independent party member, and then you lost again. when you should have never run in the first place. Cuomo should have never run. His ego and hubris cost the city much. Sorry, there's a typo there. Progressive Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg wins re-election. Even after he got rid of bail and let all these prisoners out of jail and who then hurt people and killed some people, it doesn't matter. He got re-elected with record numbers. Over 60%. Trump posts ominous warning about Zoran Mamdani's New York victory and distances himself from Republican candidates. Yeah, you distanced yourself enough from Sliwa that he never had a fucking chance. Why didn't you support Sliwa? Trump betrayed the Republican Party, I wrote. He didn't support its candidate and instead supported the Democrats. That's exactly what you did. You're a traitor. You betrayed the Republican Party, period. White House clarifies Trump's comment, SNAP funding to go out. Apparently the judge said you have to put some of it out. Not all, though. Dominican Republic postpones the Summit of the Americas. That's been postponed. CNN's Van Jones among those raising alarm at Mamdani's instant character switch after winning power. Yeah. That speech wasn't exactly conciliatory. It was fiery. It was angry. Right? Here's his parents and his mother who's connected to Qatar and his father and his wife. So we now have a Muslim mayor. What's going on with his forehead there? See his forehead? Look at his forehead. That might just be the lights. Is he morphing? Boom, right there. See his forehead? Look at that grin. Look at that. That's who's running New York right now. And of course, the thing that whatever that thing was that New Scum wanted out in California, that passed as well. Criminal illegal aliens abusing Medicaid exposed by new White House website. RFK Jr. calls for global ban on mercury and vaccines. Yeah, that should be a no-brainer. You can't touch mercury. You're not even supposed to touch it. It shouldn't be in your body, that's for sure. Shouldn't be used in vaccines. How about a ban on graphene oxide as well? Which, if you saw the graphene oxide ghost where the guy's making the graphene oxide move via sound, that's something that could make people turn into a zombie and move, maybe control people with that if you have graphene oxide in your body. Jewish Fire Department, FDNY Fire Commissioner hands in his resignation the morning after anti-Israel Zoran Mamdani elected mayor. So the fire commissioner was Jewish and he just said, I don't want to work under Mamdani at all. I'm just going to quit. Why Mamdani's socialist revolution in New York has sparked a civil war for Democrats and Trump is secretly loving it? I think Trump wanted him to win. Trump loyalists fume at scumbag Republican for paving Mamdani's path to victory. Yeah, they're pissed off at Sliwa. They think it was his fault. He should have dropped out. But even if he did, look at the numbers. It wouldn't have helped. Cuomo would have still lost. He's a bad candidate. I'm surprised Cuomo even got as many votes as he did. Shocking moment. Mexico's president is groped by a man who grabs her breast and tries to kiss her. So, where's your security? This guy had a knife. He could have killed her. He goes right up behind her. He comes like he's going to put his arm around her. Then he kisses her cheek and his hand goes to her breast and she pushes his hand away. But she doesn't sort of protest too much. And then that guy, one of the aides, tries to move him away. Let me see if I have some notes. I think I did. I was trying to connect Trump to, with Stone. And we know Trump knows Stone. But there's some other people he's involved with when his casinos are going down that I believe are helping him to launder money. One of those people was the Cordish family. And the Cordish family had some trusts and different things in the Cook Islands where their money is offshore. This is my notes now from October 2025. AI Atlas. Is it aliens or a hoax? Why are there so many earth changes via volcanoes and things? Is that being done but some kind of technology that these people are doing to try to convince us of that? Because we've seen what's his name come out, people like not Al Gore, but Gates, and Gates, and say, you know, yeah, I was wrong, right? I was wrong about climate change, and I was wrong. So why are all these things happening with the oceans, with the volcanoes, with different stuff? People are also vanishing, right? Are they going into these spaces between, in between universes, or are they actually dying? We're not seeing a lot of the stars anymore as much. We know now there's pocket realities. It's been shown to us so many times, at least in the Superman movies now, even more detail of it. If someone's manipulating the volcanoes, how are they doing it? We know that they can manipulate weather. So we now know that Antifa is basically run probably by Soros and Hans-Jörg Wyss and others who are putting a lot of money into groups like Antifa, Open Society, Tides Group, and different groups like this who are affecting different governments and trying to overthrow governments in some countries. So we know that I'm trying to connect Trump to Penn National, which is a big gaming concern that a lot of the casinos go through, because a lot of these casinos are being used obviously for money laundering. Trump had several different casinos over time that failed, that he went bankrupt in. But my question is Trump possibly money laundering some of that drug money that from just the CIA has from all the sale of cocaine? Is he helping to launder that money at the end of the 80s when the Iran-Contra thing is sort of metastasizing into something bigger where they need all this money and they need to do it black bag to try to fund the Sandinistas down there, but then they get caught, right? When one of the planes gets shot down and an American pilot is caught, and they're saying, hey, why do you got a plane full of guns? Right? What are you doing down here with a plane full of guns and money and stuff? And what are you doing? Oh, the American CIA's down here? Yeah. Then the whole thing broke open, right? Is Trump helping to launder some of the millions that they make off that? We don't know. We know that Peter Thiel is hanging out with certain people, right? I'm trying to see what I wrote here. It's a little bit small. Sorry. Blackstone, Manafort, Kelly. Right? Paul Manafort gets caught, if you remember in the beginning of Trump's first term, Manafort gets caught doing something illegal, right? And we never connected back into what he was connected into really with other people in Trump. So we have the Cordish family, Trump, Tom Barrack, who gets close to Trump and gets close to, with Manafort, he gets close to people like Howard Lutnick, Trump, and these people also get close to, some of them get close to Kushner, right? Like Tom Barrack gets close to Kushner. He bailed Kushner out on something where he needed money. Is ESPN connected to any overseas server stuff, right? That's another thing that's been coming up with the gambling. And if you when my YouTube page came back up and I could get back into it again, I rebranded the page NPNP News, and a bunch of the videos, my older videos, were still there. Excuse me, and some others that I made, like about Ascension and stuff that I didn't share because I don't want to show my face right now. So the U.S. also fired a Minuteman III Doomsday missile after Trump called for restarting nuclear weapons tests. This Mamdani voter vowed to vote 6 times. Are we going to find out if anybody voted for Mamdani illegally? Why was the voter turnout in New York so historically low year after year? Why did only 2-point-something million people vote in this election, and where it happened to the other 6 million people and their votes? These are only some of the questions I have that are ongoing after doing these digs. I hope you're doing well, working out stretching, staying in your center space. Using the I am attribution each day to simply say I am and something positive about yourself. You can speak your reality into existence. So I don't know what's going to happen with Mamdani. I think there's plenty of information out there to prove that some people in the Mamdani campaign, in my view, in my opinion, have broken the law and have taken monies that they shouldn't have taken. And I believe that illegal votes were put into the system for Mamdani, especially maybe in the early voting, that where we had this big surge of votes. So I hope that more information comes out that will show this and prove this more. We'll see. We'll follow the information where it leads us, as we always have done. I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in the center space. This is your friend, the New York Ash, NPMP News, signing off for now.